Test, test. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Marshall Baranek, and I'm a solutions engineer here for the Net@Work team. And I wanted to thank everyone who is joining today's call as we discuss building the future, Acumatica ERP, tailor-made for construction. Today, we will discover how we can streamline your company's operations, enhance your service management, optimize scheduling, and boost customer satisfaction. Join us today to learn how the Acumatica Construction ERP system will seamlessly integrate your back office systems, providing real-time insights and driving productivity. In this web session, we will showcase how Acumatica's cloud construction technology is reshaping the industry. During the session, we're going to cover how the modern architecture of Acumatica ERP has helped transform companies similar to your own. Before we jump into the content today, I do have just a couple of housekeeping items. To allow for a clean listening experience, all phone lines have been muted. However, I would encourage you to participate during the live conversation today. And if you are watching the recording of today's session, thank you for viewing. The presentation will be scheduled for about 45 minutes today, and I will do my best to address questions as they come up. However, we do have some additional time at the very end for any additional questions that may come up. We are going to spend a couple of overview slides speaking to who Net@Work is as a company and what we mean by the Acumatica Construction Edition, followed by a live demonstration of the Acumatica product. Net@Work has been in the industry for over 25 years and is recognized as an industry leader in the ERP space. Here at Net@Work, we see it as our purpose to help small and medium-sized businesses compete in today's global digital economy and to serve as a technology advisor for our customers. Although we are talking about Acumatica today, it is our role to help clients understand all of the technology tools in the market to determine what the best option is for your organization. From this slide, you can see that Net@Work is recognized as a Gold Acumatica partner, which is the highest tier available. Net@Work is also recognized as the #1 top overall Sage partner and a 5-star Oracle NetSuite partner. When evaluating any software solution, it's important that you choose a team with a proven track record of success. And here at Net@Work, we've helped well over 6,000 clients transform their company to better compete in the digital age. If there are other areas of your business that we're looking to solve for, perhaps an advanced CRM such as Creatio, Sage CRM, or Salesforce, or perhaps an HR solution like Rippling or Criterion, we have options in many different areas of the technology landscape, not just ERP. And so one of our faster growing practices is our cloud and managed services. And so if you do have a legacy ERP system, we have the ability to host that in the Net@Work cloud. This slide here speaks a little bit to the relationship between Acumatica and Net@Work. One thing that I appreciate about Acumatica is that they do not sell their product directly. They work exclusively through a network of value-added resellers such as Net@Work. Another thing I appreciate about Acumatica is that they only focus on a single product, that being the Acumatica Cloud ERP platform, whereas some other software publishers have an entire portfolio of products that they manage. Acumatica was released back in 2008, which is about the same year that the iPhone was released, which tells you that it's old enough to be built on It's new enough to be built on modern technology, however, mature enough to have enough industry focus and functionality. And since that time, it has grown to well over 10,000 business customers. And Acumatica primarily serves five major industry sectors, that being manufacturing, distribution, construction, services, and e-commerce. But today we will be focused on the Acumatica Construction Edition. And as you can see here, within the Acumatica platform, you're still going to get the Acumatica General Ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and order management included with the finance and reporting modules. However, the Acumatica Construction Edition will take this further by introducing the concept of job cost accounting and the ability to measure real-time costs against your labor, materials, subcontractors, equipment, production orders, and more. To take this concept further, we can put Acumatica in the hands of your project managers and superintendents. This allows them to easily manage daily activities by completing a daily field report. We also have strong project management functionality, including change control, progress measurement, and much more. Common in the construction industry is the need to process payroll internally. And so Acumatica not only has the ability to capture time and labor costs, but also to process your company's payroll. We have the ability to calculate your benefits and deductions and account for the unions and certified projects that you may be working on. The Acumatica inventory management allows us to measure real-time inventory and to purchase for particular projects. The service management aspect can be used for more than just dispatching service technicians. We can also use the synergy to the project management and job costing to schedule out our construction resources on the field service management calendar board. And so you can see how the various modules start to work in tandem with one another, having all of this within a single database. A success story here is the Roberts Glass and Service Company. They had been running most of their business on paper and Excel spreadsheets, and they serve in the construction industry as a specialty contractor and material supplier for the glass that is installed in all sorts of different projects. The Acumatica Construction Edition has increased the job accuracy, surfacing hours worked on a job and location of the job, giving insight into project profitability. One thing I also appreciate about Acumatica is the customer bill of rights. Now, I'll spare you having to read all of the details on here, but a couple that I feel are really important to point out is that Acumatica provides a unlimited user license access. So what that means is that you can have anyone in your company, no matter how small their role, involved in the ERP platform. Acumatica also provides 100% free professional training online via the Acumatica Open University. And so you do not have to be a customer to take advantage of online training. Now, I am a little bit biased when it comes to Acumatica. And however, there are several industry analysts, such as the G2 customer satisfaction surveys, that will consistently rank Acumatica in the upper right-hand quadrant of a variety of metrics. This particular metric is measuring customer satisfaction. Another area Acumatica tends to score very well in is customer usability. And a product that's easy to use does provide real business value, because the faster our employees can adopt the solution, the faster they can be effective. And with that, we'll go ahead and transition into the live product demo today. I will mention that Acumatica will run on any modern web browser, as well as the Acumatica mobile application. I do have a quick example towards the beginning of the presentation, and so we will take a look at the mobile app for some expense capture. And with that, we'll transition over to today's demo agenda. We're going to start the conversation today by providing a little bit of overview and navigation of the Acumatica platform and touching briefly on the financial management and general ledger aspects of the application. We'll quickly then transition into talking about your company's projects and how we can manage the CRM module for the front end of those projects. Once we do stand up that project and start to account for some of the job costing and project accounting, we'll then transition and talk a little bit about the project management and field service management aspects of the application. If time permits, we will take a look at some other features and reports within the application, but this should round us out to the top of the hour. What you should be looking at now is the Acumatica website, or acumatica.com. This is a great place to find resources here regarding the Acumatica product. For example, if you'd like to see some recent features, you can watch the 2024 R1 technical feature review that came out back in April. I'll also point out that the Acumatica Open University is very easy to access. Simply search Acumatica University, and you're looking for openuni.acumatica.com. This is where you can find training resources and much, much more. I would obviously recommend with the Start Here video that's on the front page. However, then you can transition over to the learning paths to learn more about the different applications within Acumatica. Let's go ahead and transition over to the Acumatica platform. And what you should be looking at now is the Acumatica login screen. Acumatica remembers my credentials, so I'll go ahead and sign on in. However, it's very simple to enforce multi-factor authentication for a more secure login. In fact, many of our customers will actually synchronize the Office 360 accounts, and so you can actually have the same login to your desktop as the Acumatica application as well. Acumatica also works with a number of single sign-on solutions for a more seamless sign-on experience. What you're currently looking at is a controller dashboard, and this is a dashboard that might be applicable for a financial controller or a CFO within an organization, giving me visibility into the various modules within the application, such as AR aging, AP aging, my cash position, and more. When you license Acumatica, you will get a handful of dashboards that will more or less come out of the box. And the first dashboard I'd like to highlight, past the controller dashboard, is the Construction Project Manager view. This is giving me visibility into the projects that my company is involved in. I have 33 active projects, and looks like some people are late on some particular tasks. I can see that I have some underutilized employees and projects with low billing ratios. We also give visibility into project issues, change order logs, summaries, and much, much more. It's important to note that Acumatica is extremely customizable, and they give you the power to design what you want to see within the application. So for example, if I wanted to move one of these particular tiles or delete it altogether, I'm free to do so. If 10 underutilized employees is not that big of a deal, then perhaps we would prefer that to show up as yellow. But if it's over 25 underutilized employees, we need that to show up as red. And so these dashboard tiles can be changed and the color coordinations can change, alerting you as to what needs to be done when you log into the application. And so what do we mean by underutilized employees? Well, as you might imagine, any of these dashboard tiles or grids or charts do have the ability to drill into the detail that's buried underneath it. And so this is showing me a project employee time report, and it's drilled down to a tab that's showing a low billing ratio. And what I can see here is that these particular employees have a billing ratio that is under 0.5, which means that at least half of their time is not spent billing to a project. If I navigate over to my all records, I can see employees that have a billing ratio that might be higher than 0.5, such as Michael Andrews, that does a really good job at recording all of his time. If you have noticed on the left-hand side, we have a handful of workspaces that I've displayed today, including time and expense, finance, and project accounting. And so you will see me navigate the platform today by navigating to these various workspaces. For example, I have one down below here that's relevant to dashboards. Another dashboard you may be interested in as a project manager or perhaps a project consultant is this project consultant dashboard. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Acumatica does have an unlimited license model, which means that you can start to incorporate other people into your ERP platform. You can see here that if I were a project consultant and I logged into the system, I may want to see what projects I've been assigned to, my timesheets that need to be submitted, and any tasks that I need to accomplish. We can also have links embedded into the dashboards as well. For example, I can click here to enter a timesheet or perhaps fill out an expense report. And all of this is linked within the same database within Acumatica. Now here in the upper left-hand corner where you see the Acumatica logo, that's going to be your home button, which brings you back to your home page. And for me, again, that's my controller dashboard. Now, here in the upper right-hand corner, we have the concept of the company selector. And if we have multiple entities, perhaps we have a government division, an industrial division, and we break all of that out separately from our services department, we can start to divide the appropriate tax IDs and branches that are underneath that. Here on the left-hand side in the finance module, we can leverage that company breakdown with your company's chart of accounts to generate your company's financial statements. For example, I can generate a balance sheet view here, and you're going to see about what you might expect, assets versus liabilities, shareholders' equity. And this is currently looking at a consolidated view or a total roll-up of each of these different entities. And so, for example, if I wanted to look at the industrial division, I could look and see what the sales are for just those particular business units. I could then come and see under the recreational or commercial or government or however you may have it split up to see the balance sheet view appropriately. Notice that now when I have these hyperlinks, I also have the ability to drill into the detail. So if I drilled into my cash accounts, I can see which of my chart of accounts groupings are comprised underneath that cash and equivalents. So for example, if I wanted to jump into my company checking account to see the debits and credits for this particular period, I could do so. By drilling down a step further, I now have visibility into an account detail report showing me all transactions for this particular period and this particular account and this particular branch. I can modify the from and to period here to include additional transactions. And here I can see some receivable transactions that have hit this particular checking account. If I wanted to go one step further, I could drill into the actual receivable document here to get to the originating transaction. We will show an example of a progress billings today. And so this is an example of a receivable invoice, a cash sale. And so ultimately those billings will post to the general ledger. In addition to the finance, balance sheet view, I also wanted to quickly highlight a profit and loss view. This is going to show some slightly different information. You'll see revenue versus costs, which produces your net income. And you'll notice I also have multiple columns here on the right-hand side, showing the period to date and the year to date values. This particular profit and loss statement has been dimensionalized not by the company branch structure, but instead by product categories. And so you may have food items, industrial equipment, widgets, or other, and we can start to see how our sales perform based on our product categories. Those are two examples of ways that we can start to dimensionalize our company's financials. I will also point out that we have additional financial statements here that we could generate. Notice that we can incorporate your company's budgets, and so we could run a profit and loss year to date versus budget, for example. There will also be many project-based reports that we will be taking a look at here shortly. For the next portion of the demonstration, I wanted to navigate over to the time and expense module to introduce a list of expense receipts. Now, Acumatica does have a full expense management system tracking your company's credit card transactions as well as reimbursed expenses on the employee side. What I'd like to do next is navigate over to my cell phone. And this is my cell phone here standing in my hand. And I'm going to navigate over to the Acumatica mobile app right here. Now, I could click on the Google Chrome button down below. However, I want to showcase the Acumatica mobile app. The desktop version does have a responsive design. However, the mobile app is built for Android and iOS devices. Here you can see on the mobile app, I have various KPIs that are available, such as active projects, late project tasks, and much, much more. By navigating down to the time and expense module, we can start to capture expense receipts or expense claims. Here, if I click on the ellipses next to the expense receipts, I can see that I can capture directly from my camera roll, or I can take a picture of a receipt that might be in front of me. If I just completed a transaction, perhaps it was for gas, perhaps I took the team out to lunch, or perhaps I needed to run to Home Depot to complete a particular project for the day, I can start to take photos of these particular receipts, and they will start to create the expense receipts within Acumatica. Within just a couple seconds, the system will recognize the description, the amount, and the date that's all recorded on that. Down below, you'll see that the first thing the system is prompting me for is a project code. And so I have access to see all of my projects in the application, but some employees may be only privy to see projects that they're a member of. I'm going to come here and type in the word hotel. And now that I've pulled up my beach, hotel, and condo project, it's telling me that I need to enter some additional information. Oh, let me enter a different one. Let's use the Italian restaurant. Perfect. Okay. Underneath the project task, we can start to further code this. So this is showing your standard CSI codes here. I'm just going to select this as general requirements here today, and I'm going to add a cost code as well. By clicking save here, if there is any additional information, it would have prompted me. But at this point in time, I've gone ahead and saved an expense receipt. Now, I could continue this functionality by processing an expense claim on the handheld. However, I'm going to switch over to the desktop view to first show how we have the direct integration for pulling in this item, and we can see the image that's associated and been uploaded from the handheld. The next thing I'll show is that the data on this has come over into the application. And there's one important detail down here below, and that's informing Acumatica what we use to pay for this particular expense. And there's really 2 or 3 options. The first 2 options are a corporate card, company expense, or it could be a personal account for reimbursement. Now, the third option, which I hope doesn't come up very often, is if somebody does use the corporate card for a personal expense, then we would have to treat that differently. But essentially, depending on what type of transaction it was, will drive the appropriate accounting transaction thereafter. By clicking claim here, we have the ability to take multiple receipts and add them all to a single claim. So I can start to add a new receipt, or I could add from a list of receipts that have yet to be claimed. So because we tied this to that project for this particular Italian restaurant here, when this particular expense claim is approved and released, this $66.13 will be posted to this particular project. You may have noticed that Acumatica does have the ability to route particular items for approval. It is a very foundational element to Acumatica, and expense claims are no exception. So once Layla in the finance department approved this expense, it created the financial transaction that posted to the appropriate project within Acumatica for the sub-project ledger. Here you can see that it's hit against this project, task, and cost code. By navigating to that project, I can do so directly from the expense claim. We can get a little bit more information about the project that has been set up. Here's my Italian restaurant example, and we can see here that this project has a 5% retainage withheld. We do allow for change order workflow, but it is not a certified project. We can also see additional details as to terms and what we're using for a billing perspective. Here are the high-level tasks that need to be done for this particular project. And we can then see what the budget is for each of these items here. For example, I can see here is the cost budget, and I can see what the original budgeted quantity is for each of these project tasks and cost codes and account groups. You can see here that I had a 0 budgeted quantity for $66.13. And if I were to click View Transactions, you can get into the detail of any of the actual costs that have hit your cost budget for the project. Here I can see the TJ Maxx expense that I recorded just a little bit earlier today. By navigating over to the Balances tab, I can get a mini profit and loss statement on this particular project. I can see here what my original revenue projections were, as well as what my original cost projections were. We can then see what the actuals are as displayed in the headers. By navigating over to the Commitments tab, we can see any purchase orders or subcontracts that have been set up for this particular project. If I navigate down to a particular purchase order that has not yet been approved, we can see here what the projected amount is, and we can see what the order total will be. By clicking into this purchase order here, we can see that it has not yet been sent out to the supplier because we haven't approved it yet internally. Approvals are very foundational to Acumatica, and so are the concept of notifications. And so when a particular individual, such as Layla or someone else that needs to approve these items, they can receive a text message, an email, or perhaps a push notification to that mobile app, letting them know they need to approve certain items. Once a purchase order has been set up and approved internally, we can then go ahead and email or print this out to our material suppliers. Here I can see we're purchasing some backsplash and some restaurant tile, and I can see the total for that. It comes to about $77,000. Once these particular goods have been, oops, I closed the window. If you ever get stuck like me, you can always use the recents button or find it in these windows that I had. So once we have actually received these goods, we can start to receive them into the warehouse. It is also very possible that this is a project dropship order, and so these goods could be shipped directly to the project site as well. Upon receipt of these particular items and posting of the AP bill, we will then post these expenses to the project as well. So what I'm doing now is creating the AP bill. In many cases, you will wait for the image of the AP bill to come in and then reconcile that. But we'll go ahead and process that today. And by releasing the payable invoice, this is going to add additional cost to the project. Upon releasing the AP bill, we are creating the financial transactions within Acumatica, as can be seen underneath the Finance tab linked to the General Ledger. Another way to see that 77,000 or 73 and change minus retainage is to navigate back to the project and click refresh. By navigating back to the Balances tab here, we can see the materials for projects and we can see what the actual amounts are. I can click View Commitment Details and I can get visibility into all of the purchase orders and subcontracts that make up that particular dollar amount. Here I can see the vendors that I've purchased from just recently, as well as the ones that have delivered earlier on the project. You have the ability to sort, filter, and rearrange these columns as needed to view the particular items you need. You can also navigate over to the Commitments tab to see that that particular commitment is now in the closed status. We will retain or release the retainage upon the completion of the project. Now that we've talked a little bit about how costs can be added to a project, let's talk a little bit more about project billings. Here you can see the invoices that are all associated with this particular project. For example, you may have collected a $200,000 deposit on a project of this scale. And then we can see the various monthly billings that we have sent out to the owner of the particular project. Acumatica has the ability to create what we refer to as a pro forma style invoice, like the ones you see here on the left. And then the pro forma invoice, once approved, will generate the receivable transaction. This is an optional step. You could skip the pro forma. In fact, underneath the Summary tab, you can just uncheck that Create Pro Formas and it won't do this step. But many contractors really appreciate the concept of a pro forma because it allows for them to perhaps negotiate or confirm that amount so that there's no surprises when the bill is ultimately sent over. Here I can see these three particular items that I just purchased on the PO. And because this is a time and material project, I'm upcharging for these items, receiving the appropriate amount. By clicking Remove Hold here and Approve and Release, I'm effectively creating the transaction in the Receivables module. Acumatica is warning me and saying, hey, Marshall, we're not going to let you create this receivable transaction because your AR department hasn't released the previous invoice. So let's go fix that real quick. By navigating back to the project record, I can see that I have an invoice here that's in the balanced state. Let's go ahead and fix that. This isn't necessarily that the customer hasn't paid, it's that accounting hasn't even recognized it. And so, alrighty. Now I'll be able to approve the pro forma invoice. Okay. By clicking release once again, we will create the receivable transaction. Here within the project record again, here underneath invoice, by clicking refresh, you'll see we have the new one here for that $84,000. And once accounting releases that, it will post as actual income onto the project. So that covers a lot of the project accounting aspects of Acumatica. A few other tabs here will cover change orders and change requests momentarily. But the concept of tracking union locals, we can track them at the employee level. You can also tie them to the project for reporting sake. And we can see a list of employees that have been selected for this project. Some companies want to restrict every project, and you don't have to. But if you do choose to restrict the project, then only employees listed on this tab here will have the ability to post transactions or even view, in some cases, the projects. Here we have the ability to track equipment usage, such as, well, this is how we would basically set up the rates for certain equipment or trucks or drills or concrete pumps. And when we submit the equipment time cards, we will be tracking that cost to this particular project. There's a few other tabs I like to point out, one being the compliance tab. And so we can see here the expiration date, the type of document, whether it's a certificate of insurance, a lien waiver, a notice, or otherwise. And we can see when these items have been received, processed, or otherwise. If you do have a compliance outstanding, we can use that for doing things like blocking AP payments, for example. They can be tied to the project level, the customer level, the vendor level, or the commitment level, so subcontractor purchase order. So all of that ties into compliance. Alrighty, the next module I really wanted to dive in with you all today is the project management module. And the project management module has the ability to track daily field reports, drawing logs, photos, submittals, and much, much more. And so by navigating over to project management, we can start to create daily field reports for our particular projects. Here you can see a daily field report that has some labor and time activities included on it. Once these daily field reports are posted, let's create a new one today for the Italian restaurant. When we create a new daily field report and we record time, if I recorded time for, say, Max Baker today, that's who I'm going to log in as, and we recorded the time spent here at 8 hours, and we could add a description for work performed. We'll fill in the project based on what the daily field report was selected, and then we'll indicate what was worked on. We did some site work today, and if we wanted to get more granular with a cost code, we could enter one here. By clicking save, this has now created a time activity within Acumatica. And so this is for today's date, 7/17. And in a new tab, I'm going to open up my employee time cards. What I'll do is create a new time card here, and it's going to create your time card based on the week. It's a 7-day time card, and you can see here that I've not yet filled out last week's time card. So by default, it brought that one up. But if I click plus to add a new one, it's going to create that for the next week. And I'll click save. Notice how when I create the time card, I created it brand new. I already have my 8 hours in there. It's tied to the project task, cost code, and it says I worked those there on Wednesday. And if I wanted to navigate to the details here, I could see even more information that flows directly into my time card. So showing how one person can enter time for multiple other people, I could record time for Hannah as well, and that particular time would hit Hannah's time card. The next concept here of progress worksheets. This is the concept that instead of measuring cost to mark up, in a time and materials example, we can start to measure progress of a particular unit, and then we can bill via the percent complete to the total. The way that you would typically do this is set it on the cost budget. So let me show you here under the other tab. By navigating to the cost budget on the project, we can see if we have enabled progress tracking at each of these lines here. You can see the productivity tracking column here. So if I selected something with an actual amount of 0, such as these temporary utilities or perhaps insurance, or let's use cleanup today, or something with hours. Or the concrete forming here is by linear foot. And so we can start to track progress against a linear foot. Simply allow this as the template, and by navigating back to the daily field report, we can load that template here. This is showing for concrete forming. We have the total budgeted quantity, and we can see what has been previously completed and what has been completed today. If we were able to do 500 of the 1,500 linear feet, then we can see that our percent complete to the total is a 33%. And so alternative ways of measuring actuals against cost codes. The next concept is the change order, change request workflow. Now in Acumatica, we do have a two-step process for change request, change orders. However, if you'd like to turn off the concept of a change request, you can. I like the two-step process for a few reasons, but ultimately because multiple change requests can all be put onto a single change order. But if we did need to create a change order for a particular project, that can be done very easily. And change orders can extend to a commitment underneath a particular project. So it could be a change to a project, but also a change to a purchase or a subcontracted detail. If you wanted to select from a change request, you could grab an existing one and pull those in. So you could pull multiple of them in. And ultimately, we would be creating a change to the revenue and or cost on a particular project. If I navigate to a change order here that has already been approved, or perhaps one that's on hold, you can see here the revenue budget change, the change to the commitment or the purchase order buried underneath that, and a detailed description of what's going to be changed. We can then remove the hold and print out a particular change order. And once approved, we could send this for DocuSign perhaps. It would then update the project with the approved change, providing the revised revenue and revised budget total. Other functionality that you might do on a daily field report is track subcontractor details. If you have a subcontract set up for a particular project, or a purchase order for that matter, then you can see a list of those vendors that have been approved for this project. So we could say BC Phillips came onto the project today. We can record what they did from a task and cost code perspective, record how many workers were there, what time they arrived, how long they worked, and this feeds directly into those subcontracts elsewhere in the application. If there was a project issue, we could start to record that. Perhaps there is a rock in the way, we need a blasting crew or specialized equipment to move it. Perhaps the honey bucket didn't get emptied, and those are all examples of project issues. Here we can start to record photo logs. As we had shown on the mobile application, a lot of this is accessible from a handheld device, and so taking photos are very easy to do directly from that device. The last tab I wanted to highlight here is the equipment. And so remember how we set up that equipment use or the equipment costing. When we start to record how long a particular piece of equipment was used on a project, perhaps we used this vehicle, we let it run for 6 hours today, then we can start to record that cost via the equipment time card. So by clicking save here, we can see and complete. Oh, it's not like in my equipment. I need to verify which piece of equipment there. But ultimately, it will start to post these values against the project. You can also have the weather come in automatically, record visitors, and much, much more. So now that we've shown how we can start to account for project details, as well as extend this out to some of our project managers, I want to now speak to resource allocation, or how we might schedule out particular resources. So in order to do that, I'm going to open up the field service calendar board to showcase various appointment records. This can be used to tell employees where they need to be and what they need to be doing. Here on the left-hand side, I have a list of my staff, and you'll also notice we could use this for measuring large pieces of equipment and where they need to be at any particular time. We can see the particular work orders that are associated with each of these employees, and some of these work orders are tied to projects. You may also have one-off work orders for, say, an installation or a service. Here you can start to interact with these various appointments, and you can drag and drop them as needed from one employee's schedule to another, or perhaps from one day to the next. You also have the ability to color coordinate these as needed. So green may be not started, blue in process, gray may mean that they are completed, and after the billing or transactions have been sent to the project module, we can have them fall off this list altogether. I like to highlight the service management board because it does have a nice tie into projects, but it can be used for much, much more. If you'd like a full field service demonstration, I'd be happy to highlight that. Otherwise, you simply create an appointment. You can use an existing one, and you can see how these tie directly to the projects. So by showcasing this appointment record here, we'll make it a little bit bigger. We can see the project code, whether it's not tied to a project or otherwise. Assuming it's tied to your projects, it will then post that appropriately. Now, one area that we did not focus on very much today is the concept of CRM, or customer management. And so we do understand that many organizations have sales folks that are out there starting to, drum up business and work leads and opportunities that hit their particular plate. And so with Acumatica CRM, we can give salespeople visibility into new leads as well as open opportunities and, frankly, things that they should be focused on. Of those 16 opportunities, I can see how they're spread across my pipeline here on the right-hand side. If I were to drill into those 16 opportunities, I can see some of the opportunities that I might have to work, such as this Four Seasons mixed-use development project. By clicking into this particular opportunity record here, first thing I'll point out is we do have this cool conditional formatting here. So you can see, like, if you have an estimated close date that's past a certain area, you could have that show up as red, or perhaps if you had blank areas that needed to be filled in, you could do so as beige, or perhaps highlighting green things as one can be done very easily. You'll also notice that we have the side panels here on the right-hand side, which you may have seen in a previous demonstration. Let me get back to the drill down there. So we can open up that opportunity here on the right-hand side, which is very handy because we can start to work this list on the left, and we can see the details here on the right. If I jump into this design and architecture project, we can see here underneath the quotes that we can set up multiple different quotes for a single opportunity. And ultimately, the quote that's going to win will be the quote that would be stood up as the project. That is just about everything I had to highlight for you all in the demonstration today. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate back to the PowerPoint for just a couple of closing slides. Okay. Bear with me here just a moment. All righty. Well, I wanted to thank everyone for joining me today. If you have not already, please do submit any questions into the Q&A section. And while you're doing that, I'd like to navigate you all to the Net@Work website. Here at net@work.com, you can find lots of information about upcoming webinars, as well as finding recorded webinars, such as the one we've gone through today. Simply come over to the Learning Center, and you can find recorded webinars, white papers, success stories, and much, much more. Here under the Live Webinars tab, you can start to see upcoming webinars on Acumatica, NetSuite, Sage X3, and other applications as well. So be sure to register for those live events. I will hang on for just a couple more minutes and navigate to the questions section to see if any other questions do come in. But if you have to leave for the day, I do appreciate all of your time and participation, and hope that you have a great rest of your week. And bye-bye for now.